in 2 weeks, but in the end... Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rift News, the show that keeps reminding you that things are happening to League of Legends, and the game is not falling into irrelevancy. This episode will be a tiny bit different, because we'll go through all the teasers and videos Riot released. And Riot released a lot of them. They decided to be as transparent as the sheet of paper protecting McDonald's burgers. So they pretty much told us about everything they are working on. But they did it in an interesting way. The majority of the players have no idea about this. But during the first week of season 2019, every single day, they released one video explaining the future of League of Legends. Day 1 showed us the new cinematic, which we already covered on this channel. Day 2 was focused on ranked and gameplay. Day 3 was full of teasers, stories and champions. Day 4 brought back Ghostcrawler to talk about even more lore. Day 5 confirmed what skins we will get this year. And Day 6 is all about esports. So, because we now have to cover 6 days worth of news, let's get on it. Actually, 2 more slightly less important things. First of all, since Silas arrived to live servers, his story was expanded way further than we thought. For the first time in League's history, Riot is focusing on evolving story. And the first change to Runeterra arrived in the form of the first story event, the Siege of Demacia. Here's a little teaser of that event.
Demacia was not built on a dream. Demacia was built on a lie. All those noble ideals and promises of a brighter future, they were never meant for the likes of us. We have been stripped of our freedom, our dignity, our very lives. I say no more. Mages of Demacia, the day has come. It's time we fight back.
We will cover everything that happened during this event in about 3 days on this channel. The second less important piece of news is that on Riot's merch store, you can get an amazing Lee Sin shirt and a Lee Sin statue. But now, let's get back into the videos Riot released. Even though Day 1 released the cinematic, it also gave us a hype video for the season 2019. Normally, these videos are focused on esports and all the hype around professional play. You know, the things we avoid on this channel. But this time it was a hype video about esports and other things that may arrive later this year. I got a couple of messages from people asking me about the image shown at the very beginning. This is a concept board where Riot stores all their concept art. So pretty much all of this was already released. For example, this was a concept art for the actual Demon of Noxus, the one Sway now has under control. These are concepts for Akali's kit, and this is an early look at Irelia. So nothing new here. But later in this video we got our first glance at Kayle and Morgana and the next champion. At this point we know that Kayle and Morgana are tied to Targon and the Celestial Realm, which is further underlined by the celestial markings around this image. But we also know that they are bound to Demacia. We'll talk about them more later in this video, but for now, the one thing that surprised me is the number of wings shown here. Riot usually gives their teaser an aha moment. It's usually something that's off that will only make sense after you see the released champion. In this case, I think it might be the number of wings seen here. If Riot gives each of the angels 6 wings, you know, 3 on each side, I think that will be an amazing League twist on the classic angel design. The second teaser that appeared in this video showed us the next champion. We know it is a support champion that works like an enchanter, but from the design side, it looks a little bit out of place. The reason why I'm saying this is because normally people would assume that this is another Ionian champion. You have leaves and nature everywhere around it, but I don't think that's the case. Ionia never uses bright blue in its color palette. That one is usually tied to Demacia or any other mysterious magical place. This includes Shurima, since the golden book and blue gem is very similar to Ezreal's gauntlet. In fact, in League of Legends in general, blue means magic. But if you ask me, this is a teaser of a champion that could be from 2 places. Either we get another champion from the unexplored Kumungu jungles, or we get a Yordle from Bandle City. And since we just got Nico, who is in the jungles right now, I think we'll get another Yordle on our hands. And looking at the crystal ball, that is clearly smaller than the books and papers surrounding it, it might be a fortune-telling enchanting Yordle. But that's pretty much what Day 1 offered us. Now on to Day 2. Here we have a video narrated by SafeLock that's all about gameplay. Immediately at the beginning, she revealed that instead of updating older systems, in 2019 Riot will focus on expanding League into new places. This makes sense since the old runes and masteries are finally gone, and items are in a reasonable state. So, the first big reveal, and for me this is something that makes me really happy, is that Riot looked into the numbers and the feedback, and they realized that there really is an interest in more gameplay diversity. So in 2019 there will be a lot more polishing done on Nexus Blitz. This will be done based on the stats they got from the second Nexus Blitz run that happened few months ago. And there is also interest in PvE game modes. And here she mentioned both older game modes getting better, which means that Odyssey might continue, as well as brand new maps with new adventures. On top of that, right now you can jump into a new version of All Random Earth that received a lot of quality of life improvements. Later, SafeLog also mentioned how Riot plans to dish out bigger changes to the game. The beginning of last season was awkward because there were simply too many big changes at once. And mid-season in 2018 wasn't any different. So in 2019, Riot will push bigger changes in smaller chunks throughout the year. So everything should be much easier to understand when it comes. Of course, that is besides the big pre-season window where everything goes wild. The last thing that the video mentions is Clash. And here we learn that Clash will launch earlier this year, and that Riot is making sure it launches smoothly. Something that we have heard 3 times already. So Riot, you better do this right this time. Clash is becoming worse meme than Dominion. One nice detail is that Clash will have its own region-based cups. There will be Demacia Cups, Piltover Cups or Bandle City Cups, and all of them will let you earn reputation with that faction. I really hope there will be a nice reward system tied to these places. That was the second day. Now let's move on to the third. This one was all about champions, which means that everyone can pull up their theory hats now. This time the moderator is Riot Reeve. The beginning of this video is interesting because he dives right into Kayle and Morgana, and he gave us a good idea of what we can expect from them. When it comes to Kayle, she is being built from the ground up, so everything will be new. The video also has short clips of the artist working on her, but we still can't see anything meaningful. Maybe except this strange color combination, which could serve as a color scheme for one of her skins. Reeve also revealed that while her kit will change, her fantasy will remain the same. She will be a holy angel that starts as a melee champion and slowly ascends to a ranged hypercarry. Riot also wants to preserve her healing and full immunity, which means that while those spells will likely change, they won't be too different from what we got now. Morgana is a totally different story. Riot wants to stick to Morgana's kit as it is right now, and I understand why. Her kit is very simple, easy to understand, and fresh players use these simpler champions to learn the game. Riot can't just remove the basic champions because it would ruin the experience for many players. With that said, her ultimate might change to make her feel more fresh, since her current ultimate just awkwardly sits beside her basic abilities. They don't synergize that well for today's standards. When it comes to her visuals, just like Kayle, Morgana will be built from the ground up. After this, Reeve talks about the teased support champion. The new information here is that it will be a classic enchanter type support like Jenna or Nami. Also, his character should be the exact opposite of Pyke, which plays more into our Yordle theory. After this teaser, we got a new reveal. And let's pray for our pizza feed because we're talking about Mordekaiser. And it's not just a visual update. Mordekaiser is getting completely reworked as well. His kit will go away from the idea of Mordekaiser shielding people. That makes sense because in the story, Mordekaiser single-handedly, that means alone, killed hundreds of thousands of warriors in a single battle. He literally died standing on a mountain of corpses. I think the idea of teaming up with someone goes beyond him, so expect him to be a solo laner again. At the end of the video, we got one final reveal. Riot is working on a new assassin that is in very early stages. That kinda goes with the blade we saw during the cinematic, by the way. But besides that is it for day 3. Now let's move on to day 4, where Ghostcrawler talks about lore in 2019. And let me tell you, it looks really bright. Again, we got a mention of Demacia being under siege by the mages that Sylas brought together. That on its own kickstarted a world-changing event. But later, Riot plans to look into Bandle City, which again plays into our support Yordle theory. So we will learn about how Bandle City works, what it is, and what are the gateways. Then Ghostcrawler talked about how they plan to move the storyline of League of Legends forward. They listen to our feedback and they will try to prolong the comics they release. In other words, instead of releasing a single issue at a time, they will release multiple story arcs at once. The release plans remain the same, however. Riot still plans to release at least one comic every month. Speaking of which, we also got a confirmation for the next 2 comic lines. Later this year we will get a comic book story about Garen and Lux. And at the very end of the year we will also get Zed. But the most important part is that Riot is also releasing books. Both physical and digital. The first one will be a novella focused on Demacia. It should arrive this year, with more books following next year. At the end of the video, Ghostcrawler also mentioned that alternative universes will also get more updates, but the main focus is on progressing the core storyline. That concludes day 4. Now on to day 5, which is all about skins and events. Here, Carlos, yes, that is his name and we talked about him before.
Hi, I'm Carlos.
Talks about what events will arrive in 2019. Straight off the bat we learned that Project, Arcade and Star Guardian skins will be returning this year. There will also be a new Versus event, but this time it will not be a grim legendary battle, but it will be an event about cats versus dogs. Yes, that is Fist by the way. There will also be a brand new event inspired by anime, and the video even shows us that you'll be progressing through a school. This event should launch with a new champion, so it should be with the Yordle wink wink that we are expecting. When it comes to other skin lines that we already know, Riot plans to rework some of the more boring themes, the same way they turned the uninspired High Noon theme into the demon-infested Western world. Since KDA was a massive hit, expect the rest of the band also getting prestige skins later this year. And because it was such a hit, we may even get new music-based skins as well. Carlos also mentioned that Riot will make skins for champions that didn't get one in a while. The confirmed champions were Nunu, Zillion, Shaco and even Ivern. Also, listen to the end of the video.
Thank you again for being amazing, fantastic, wonderful, and legendary, like Zed and Jin.
He emphasized legendary when talking about Zed and Jin. I wonder if it is a subtle teaser too, because why would he even mention them? But now, let's get on to the final day that's all about esports. Now, I don't know much about esports, so let me go through it really quickly. Mid-season Invitational will be in Taipei. There will be even more esports mission to complete in the game, more college and amateur championships, and more robust European regional league ecosystem. That line is not from Discovery Channel, it's about esports. But other than that, that is it. Now that I have spoiled everything that will happen in 2019, you can play other games until 2020. Hey, did you know that we have social media and Twitch where we talk about other league facts and stories? And did you know that we have need mugs and shirts too? The links to all of that will be below. And as always, thank you, come again.